know there are many dams across India. So large dams ensure the storage of water for irrigation purpose of the fields, as well as electricity will be produced in the dams, right? Thermal power will be generated from the dams as they store water. And small canals from these dams transfer water to large distances. This water is connected via canals to a very large distances. There is opposition for construction of large dams in India. While, for example, Tehri Dam on River Ganga, Sardar Sarovar Dam on River Narmada, there was a Save the Narmada River, Narmada Bachao movement where they wanted to increase the height. All these opposition in the dams, why does this occur in India? So criticism about large dams addresses these following problems. Why the opposition occurs in dams? These are the three reasons. So what are the reasons? Social problems, because they displace large number of peasants. Peasants means farmers, and tribals without adequate compensation or rehabilitation. If the dams are constructed, large number of agricultural lands will be removed because of construction of dams, and then tribal people will also be affected, and then both these farmers and tribals will not be given any compensation or any rehabilitation homes if their land is removed in the process of, or if the land is occupied in the process of construction of dams. So that is a social problem. Next is economic problem, because they swallow huge amount of public money without generation of proportionate benefits. We don't know whether later the benefits will be there or not after construction of the dam, but huge amounts of money will be involved in construction of these dams. And where will the money come from? The money will come from the public only. Public will pay taxes, right? So these taxes money which will be collected by the government will be used in these purposes, for construction of dams, for any other purpose also. Next comes environmental problem, because they contribute enormously to deforestation and loss of biological diversity. If they want to construct dams over a certain area, they will cut all the trees of that area. That will lead to deforestation. Then if the deforestation occurs, animals which depend on their habitat on their forests, animals which live in the forest. Forest is a home for many animals, birds as well as insects. When we cut off these forests, the home will be lost for these animals, and then the animals may eventually die. So that is how it is loss of biodiversity. So these are the problems which occur, and that is why people oppose the construction of dams. Then there was a Tawa Dam constructed in 1970 in Hoshangabad of Madhya Pradesh. So the Austies of Tawa Dam built in 1970s are still fighting for the benefits they were promised. The people whose lands, whose homes were removed during the construction of this dam, they were promised some compensation amount which is not given till date. So from 1970 the people are still fighting for the compensation amount they were promised. That is the problem when dams are constructed. So dams came into existence after the arrival of British. Before British rule, there was no dams. The irrigation was mainly dependent on monsoonal rains. The agriculture, the cultivation usually depended on monsoon rains. But the monsoon rains are seasonal. They come only for few months of year, and rest of the months the irrigation was with the help of stored water. But later, after British came into existence, they started building dams. And after the British left and after the independence came, the Indian government continued the usage of the dams. So that is how dams came into existence. There is also something called check dams. Check dams are largely canal terrains, water harvesting structures, and are crescent shaped and concrete and rubble. They are built across seasonally flooded gullies. So check dams are nothing but whenever there is excess flow of water during the rains, some roads will be blocked by those waters. So at that stage, over the road, a crescent shaped, stone shaped, wall like structure will be built. That is nothing but a check dam. So this is how we can conserve water. Next is coal and petroleum. How can we manage coal and petroleum? Coal and petrol are the major energy resources. Mostly many vehicles run with the help of petrol. But since they are exhaustible in nature, we need to find out alternate sources of energy. They are not unlimited. At some moment of time, say 40 years, they may be completed. So we should think of some alternate sources of energy also. So scientists are working on developing some alternate energy sources so that dependency only on coal and petroleum can be reduced. So how have scientists developed new energy sources? One is solar energy. Solar energy can be used to produce electricity at many places. For heating of water, for electricity purpose, nowadays many buildings on their terraces will have solar panels. You might have seen. And hydrogen can be used for fuel for the cars nowadays. It is being developed. So that is how scientists are working. Coal and petroleum are formed from biomass. How are coal and petroleum formed? Petrol is formed in the deepest layers of the ocean. When the ocean animals die, plants die, they get compressed at the deeper layers, and due to high pressure over a period of many years, it will be converted into petrol. And how is coal formed? Forests get buried and dead animals get buried, and due to high pressure over a period of many years, it will be turned into coal. So that is how coal and petrol are formed. They contain carbon mainly. All these two things contain carbon as well as nitrogen, hydrogen and sulfur. So when these coal and petrol are burned, what are the byproducts? Carbon dioxide, water, nitrogen oxide as well as sulfur oxide. But when all these burn in the presence of less oxygen in the air, then what happens? Then instead of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide will be produced. So these carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxide, all these are poisonous gases. Then what happens? Increase in number of poisonous gases in the environment will lead to pollution. So coal and petrol are basically made of carbon. So when carbon is burned, carbon dioxide is produced, and increase in amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will lead to the global warming. Nowadays we hear about global warming, right? And carbon dioxide is also a greenhouse gas. So when coal and petroleum are mainly made up of carbon. So when carbon is burnt, carbon dioxide is produced, and increase in amount of carbon dioxide leads to global warming. And when these carbon and petroleum are burnt, the byproducts are carbon dioxide, water, nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide. But if they are burnt in the absence of oxygen, so instead of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide will be produced. So this CO, NO and SO are the mainly poisonous gases which lead to pollution. So what can we do? We must use these things in minimal amounts. We should reduce the usage of coal and petrol. So instead of going in vehicles, we can go by walk sometimes or by bicycles. That is how we can reduce the use of petroleum. Right? Sustainable management of natural resources is a difficult task. So we will see an overview of the natural resources management. So sustainable management means we damage the environment while using the natural resources. So without damaging the environment, we should use natural resources. That is sustainable management. So but it is a very difficult task. Without damaging the environment, it is difficult to use. Suppose if we are digging up coal or nickel or iron ore, while extracting that from the ground, we are damaging the land, and while extracting it, we do not get the purest form. We have to again remove the purest form from it. Then while removing the purest form, we get some impurities which we again throw in the surroundings. So that is how it is. Sustainable management matters, that we have to use all the resources without damaging the environment. But it is a difficult task. So we need to keep our mind open regarding the stakeholders also, because their interests of the interest of stakeholders also should be kept in mind while managing the natural resources. We shouldn't be selfish and think of our own goals, because being selfish will lead to the misery as well as large number of people. We will not be able to think for a group of people. It leads to misery, selfishness, and then it leads to the destruction of the total environment. So we should restrict or adapt our requirements. We should restrict or adapt our requirements so that the benefits will reach to everyone and all the future generations to come. That is what we can do. we should use the resources judiciously, and our requirements we should adapt in such a way that it should benefit all the people. So what we can do in reducing the energy consumption? So we can use LED lights to save the energy. We have to replace the tube lights with LED lights. Then instead of electric motors to lift the water, we can use hand pumps. Thereby we will save electricity. And we can use natural light. Instead of switching on the tube lights in the morning, we should allow sunlight to enter. Then we should use natural ventilation instead of air conditioners to cool the rooms. We can increase the window sizes so that the natural ventilation will enter the room instead of using the ACs or the air conditioners. And in schools what we can do is we can use the more of blackboards instead of using the projectors and computers. Thereby we will reduce the use of electricity a little. So this is how you can reduce the energy consumption as an individual, and this completes the chapter management of natural resources.